We work in a very reactive business. Someone wants to list their house for sale, we react and often jump to make it happen. Someone wants to buy a house, same thing, we react and make it happen. But should we be as reactive when we get feedback, especially negative feedback from someone? Let's find out. Welcome to the Savvy Agent Podcast, where we help real estate agents build a thriving business so they have financial freedom in their life without having to work 24/7. I'm your host, Heather Wright. Now let's get to it. Are you letting the feedback from outsiders get you down, make you feel less than, perhaps change your path because you don't want to upset them? Last week, I got 3 emails that were all a little strange. A past client emailed me in response to my newsletter, and she said, "Hey, please remove me from this, please." It was nice that she said please twice, but I thought it was kind of strange because she didn't include any niceties. Like she didn't say, "Hey, Heather, how are you?" It was as though she was talking to a stranger. And I'm not a stranger because I have helped her move a couple of times. I mean, not actually move. I've been her realtor a couple of times. And I support the business that she runs. We're in Facebook groups together. Like she knows me. The email was strange. Did I let the email get me down? No, I did not. I responded very kindly and said, "Of course, I will unsubscribe you right now." She actually lives in an area just outside the Des Moines metro area, which is where I sell real estate. And she lives just outside that. So I guess it makes sense that most of what's in the newsletter doesn't really pertain to her anyway. And she just, for whatever reason, doesn't want to get it. But I am confident that if she needed a realtor today, she would call me. So no, I did not let this email get me down. Another past client, this all happened last week. It was so weird to get so many emails that were just odd. But another past client emailed me in response to an equity update email that I sent out last week. Her email was so strange. She said, since they have a 20-month-old, they're not ready to move. Okay. I mean, it was a pleasant enough email. And she even said, "I hope everything was well for me." But I specifically said in my equity update email that even if you don't want to move, this is why you should care about this email. There was no assumption that they would move. There was no pitch in there to say, "Hey, call me to list your house for sale." So of course I responded and I said, "Oh, hey, what a fun age for kids." I don't know, something like that. And how, of course, I was not assuming that you would want to sell. And I just reiterated what my original email said. This is why you should care about this, and wished her well. I did not let her response get me down. Will I keep sending emails to them? Yes, of course. But then there was a lead that's been in our system since 2016. And he's been assigned to a couple of different agents, largely an unresponsive lead. And so he's been in our system since 2016, and we have sent him a total of 113 marketing emails. So that could be like some drip emails that he would have gotten when he was a new lead. And, over the last probably 2 years or so, I have been fairly consistent sending out a monthly newsletter. So a lot of those were newsletters that he got. And I looked at them and he has opened up the newsletters. He's never responded. And last week he replied to my newsletter and he said, "Your Facebook requirement is stupid and you made me mad. Thanks, Mike." What? Dude, what kind of email is this? And so I was so confused and I'm like, for real, like he must not know how the internet works. So I just responded and I said, "I don't know what you're referring to, but I'm happy to unsubscribe you. Have a nice day." Did I let it get me down? No, I did not. Although a couple of days later, I did realize that he must have meant the Facebook registration option on our site. It's not like I was still thinking about it. I was actually thinking about doing this podcast, and it kind of, had that light bulb moment where I was like, oh, that's what he meant. Because when you log on, like one of the links that I have in my newsletter is click here to find out how much your home is worth. And so if he had clicked that link, or maybe a link to look at properties for sale, then depending on the version that he clicked on, at some point, the website is going to prompt him to register. And I think that they do have using Facebook as an option to register. So that's probably what he meant, which, I mean, it clearly was very unclear to me at the time. But also, why would he be upset about that? I already have his email. What does he think is going to happen if he registers with Facebook on my website? So strange. And I don't let these things get me down because they're in the vast minority. It's really weird that I got so many responses last week and I double checked it was not a full moon. Isn't that weird? However, just because Mike is mad at my website or he doesn't want to work with me, whatever his message meant, that doesn't affect me or my goals. In the past, 75% of my sales have been from past clients and referrals. And referrals don't come from strangers, they come from people you know. My newsletter is one of the best things that I do for prospecting. Just because somebody unsubscribes or might have crazy comments, I mean, sometimes it stings. I know. I don't actually like to look and see how many people unsubscribed because it does hurt my feelings a tiny bit, but that doesn't mean that I'm doing something wrong. And it also doesn't mean that the other 4,000 people on the list aren't getting value out of it. One of my best friends once unsubscribed from my newsletter. Does that mean she isn't going to work with me? No. It means that in that moment, she didn't want to receive the newsletter. As a matter of fact, she continues to recommend me, and I sold her fiance's house and helped them purchase a new one. All of that after she unsubscribed. Not everyone is going to want a newsletter. Not everyone is going to want an automated home value email. Not everyone is going to want listing alerts. But when you take it to heart, when you take that feedback personally, you risk derailing your progress. You've got goals, right? I know I do. And the message I want you to receive from this is keep doing the thing that moves you closer to accomplishing your goals. The number of people that don't complain far outweigh those that do. Actually, almost no one ever complains. The fact that I had 3 weird messages last week I've said it before, and I'm sure I'll say it again, was pretty weird. But even though it was out of the ordinary, I could have let it get to me. What would happen if I stopped sharing my website because old Mike didn't like it? My business would suffer because I wouldn't be able to generate leads as well. And if my business suffers, well, what else is going to happen as a result of that? It's possible I would reach less people that need my help, so they would suffer because they would use an agent who wasn't as good as me. If I don't sell enough, I suppose I'd have to get a new job, and then my team would suffer because then they'd be unemployed. And my past and future clients would suffer because I wouldn't be there to help them when they needed it. And my new employer would suffer because I'm basically unemployable after being self-employed for so long. It's true. So what does it mean that Mike doesn't like my website? It just means my website isn't the right solution for him. In that moment, I did trash his lead record, so we'll never know if he might have had a change of heart. This is my business, and I get to choose who I work with, and I choose anyone but Mike. So it's okay that he had his negative feedback. He is allowed to feel how he feels, but he shared it with me in a way kind of off-putting. Like that sends a message that Mike's going to be a difficult dude to work with because Facebook registration made him mad. Come on. Listen, it's okay if someone doesn't want to get your newsletter. It's okay if they prefer a different method of communication. Heck, it's okay if they prefer to work with another agent. When you unsubscribe from my list, I appreciate not having to pay for you to remain on my list. Email software isn't free. When that happens, I bless and release. And I recommend that you don't let it get you down. Don't let it discourage you from doing the work to reach your goals. And this same advice can be applied to anything in your business other than newsletters or email responses. For example, I see agents getting attacked on a regular basis in Facebook groups. They might be asking questions or trying new things, and it is a melee of negativity. Do not let other agents stop you from succeeding. They're entitled to their opinion, but you do you. I do think there's something to be said about evaluating feedback to determine if a change is necessary. For example, if I got a lot of email responses, and I know 3 was incredibly out of the ordinary, but let's say I got 30 email responses, that would be shocking. And of course, I would evaluate the situation. Was it something I said in the message? Is there something else going on in the community or something all of the responders have in common? Same thing if a large percent of my list unsubscribed, well, that's sending a message, and I would evaluate who was unsubscribing. Again, why? Was it something I said in the message? Is there something else going on? Am I sending a message that is somehow insensitive because a large employer in the area laid off half of their staff the day before or the morning of my newsletter? I usually write it in advance and schedule it so I could see how something like that would happen. But that's part of the evaluation process. So I don't let the emotion of the event of people unsubscribing or responding to emails, I don't let the emotion of how I feel when I see those things happen. I don't let that dictate how I respond to the actions that I need to take to make my goals. I'm going to evaluate what happened and see if, in fact, there is something I could have done differently that would have had a better response and then change that accordingly. I wouldn't just stop sending the newsletter because Mike doesn't like it. That doesn't make any sense. And in the case of getting negative feedback from other agents, I would first evaluate if what was being said was true and how does it affect my situation. Talking about this in the abstract is kind of tricky because I don't have a specific example. But sometimes people are brutal to each other just because they can be. Keyboard warriors are everywhere on Facebook, and there seem to be a lot of them in real estate groups. But that doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to change the actions you need to take to reach your goals. You do you. I support you building a business that works for you, a business that you love, a business where you get to work with people that love you. Don't let the naysayers get you down. You keep doing what you need to do to reach your goals. You've got this.